I have always been fascinated with astral projection for years. The idea that you could leave your body, float around, even explore places that shouldn't be accessible, it all seemed unreal. But I was obsessed with making it happen. I read every book I could find, watched countless videos, and even joined forums where people shared their experiences. I tried different techniques, meditation, sound frequencies, even lucid dreaming exercises. But no matter how hard I focused, I could never break free from my body. Then, I came across something I hadn't considered before. Apparently, the key was to get into the state between being asleep and awake, a condition where your body is asleep, but your mind is still aware. Most people are aware of this state of body and mind. Sleep, paralysis. After learning this, I decided to try one last time. I had just finished work, and I was exhausted. I figured I was in the perfect state of mind to be in. When I got home, I laid in bed with the TV on, letting the sound of a random show play softly in the background. At some point, I drifted into sleep, but then I realized I couldn't move. My entire body was frozen. I could see, hear, even think, but I was paralyzed. A cold, sinking feeling spread through my chest as I understood what was happening. Sleep paralysis. But this time, instead of panicking, I focused. This was the perfect moment to attempt an out-of-body experience. I imagined myself lifting, separating from my physical form, and then it happened. I felt a strange pulling sensation, like something light being peeled away from something heavy. A second later, I sat up, but I could still see my body lying on the bed. I had actually done it. I looked down at my hands. They were transparent, with a faint blue glow. I felt weightless, completely disconnected from anything physical. I stood up and looked around the room. Everything looked exactly the same. The posters on my wall, the dim glow of the TV screen. But then, I noticed the shadows. The corners of my room were growing darker. The light from the TV wasn't reaching the edges anymore. It was like the room itself was shrinking into darkness. Pure panic crept into my chest. I turned back toward my body. I needed to get back inside. I lay down, trying to merge with myself again. Nothing happened. I tried again. Still nothing. It felt like I was locked out, like my body was rejecting me. The room got darker. The shadows stretched toward me, crawling up the walls, pooling around my bed. Then I heard it. A slow, deep breath. It came from right behind me. I wanted to turn around, but something deep inside me screamed not to look. I threw myself at my body, trying desperately to snap back in. The breathing got louder. Then, just before the darkness swallowed me whole, I snapped back. I bolted upright, gasping for air. My heart was slamming in my chest. The TV was still on. The room was normal again. But when I looked at the clock, hours had passed. It was 3 a.m. For a moment, I thought I had died. To this day, I never attempted that again. Something was with me that night when I left my body. I don't want to know what it was, but I'm sure it was something made of pure darkness.
When I was a kid, I had the ability to leave my body without trying. I thought I was just dreaming of floating out of my body and drifting through my house, but it was real. And it was fun. At least in the beginning it was. I never told anyone. It was my secret superpower. and I continued to do it for most of my childhood. But one night, everything changed. I drifted too far. I had that familiar weightless feeling, but instead of floating around my room, I decided to wander. I closed my eyes and jumped from my window, soaring through the air. I kept my eyes closed, curious to where I would wind up. I always felt safe because I knew I could snap back into my body, so I kept going. When I finally stopped, I felt cold, damp earth beneath me. I looked around. Rows of gravestones stretched in every direction. I was in the cemetery near my house. Normally, I'd be excited to explore, but this place was not a place I ever wanted to be when I was awake, let alone when I was out of my body. I turned to leave, but then I heard it. Whispers. At first, they were soft, like wind through trees. Then, they grew louder. I turned and saw them. Dozens of figures, dark, transparent, drifting between the gravestones. Their mouths moved, their voices overlapping, frantic, desperate. "Help us, please. Take us with you. I want to live again." They moved toward me. Arms reaching, hands grasping. I felt them. Cold. Bony fingers gripping me. They weren't just trying to touch me. They were trying to pull me inside them, to take my body. I tried to run, but my spirit felt heavy. I was stuck. I forced myself to think about home, my room, my body in bed. And then, I snapped back. I woke up, gasping. My room was freezing. The window was wide opened. I sat up, heart pounding. Everything looked normal, period. But I felt like I wasn't alone, and I was right. For the next few nights, I felt watched. Shadows moved in the corners of my room. My closet door, which I always closed, would be wide open. Then, things got worse. One night, as I fell asleep, I heard it again. "Let us in." I sat up. My room was empty. Another night, I woke up paralyzed, unable to move, my body locked in place, and I felt it. Something was standing over me. Dark figures, featureless, barely more than shadows. I shut my eyes, praying it wasn't real. When I opened them again, the shadows were gone. But the next morning, I noticed something on my arm. A bruise. Like fingerprints. I never told my family. What would I even say? That I brought ghosts home? Years passed and I tried to forget, but it never stopped. Some nights I wake up to whispers in my ear, and just before I fall asleep, I hear a voice say, "Let us in." And I know they're still here. I never left my body again after that. And I'm convinced that they didn't either.
I've been astral projecting since I was a kid. At first, I didn't even know what I was doing. It just happened. Over the years, I got better at controlling it. I could leave my body whenever I wanted, float around my house, even visit other places. That's when I got the idea to project from different locations, hotels, friends' houses, anywhere new I could get access to. I became addicted. The rush of traveling outside of your own body is truly indescribable. Then, one night, I had a crazy idea. There was an abandoned house a few blocks from where I lived. It had been empty for years. I drove past it all the time, always wondering why no one stayed there for long.
I decided that was where I would leave my body next. Big mistake. I waited until after midnight when no one was around. I parked down the street and climbed through a broken window. The air inside was thick and stale. Dust covered everything. The wooden floor creaked under my weight as I made my way upstairs. I found an empty room with an old, stained mattress. It was disgusting, but I laid down anyway. I closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, and focused. The paralysis came fast. My body went numb. My mind drifted into that perfect in-between state. I tried to lift out, but something was wrong. I felt heavy, like I was being pushed down instead of rising up. It was like something didn't want me to leave my body. I forced myself to push harder. Suddenly, my spirit lifted out of my body, but instead of floating, I rolled off the mattress and hit the floor. I tried to stand. I couldn't. Something was holding me down. At first, my vision was blurry, but then it cleared. And that's when I saw them. A pair of rotting gray feet. They were standing right in front of me. And the pressure on my back. It was a hand. A thin, bony hand pushing me down. I wanted to scream, but I had no voice in this form. I tried to lift my head, but the pressure got stronger. Then, something leaned down beside my ear. A voice, low and guttural, whispered, "Get out." I was ripped back into my body so violently that it felt like I had been dropped from the ceiling. I shot up, gasping. My body was ice cold. I didn't think. I just ran. Later, I did some research on the house. Over the past 5 years, 12 different families had moved in and left within months. No one ever said why. But I have a feeling I know. I wish I didn't.